Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Anthony Gamer. Welcome back to Classic Gamer 74. I really hope everybody is having a great summer. And our first episode back is going to be about lost media in the video game world, starting with the Atari 2600. Okay, so before we get started, let's define what is lost media. Lost media is something that is either lost, missing, or no longer available to the general public. This can be any type of media, whether it be TV shows, books, movies, even video games. With the video game crash in the early 80s, 83 and 84, a lot of games that were planned to be released soon were ultimately canceled. And unfortunately, a lot of these prototypes were never found. Some of them were and have been dumped and made available to the general public. Others, we know the ROMs are out there somewhere, but they may be in the hands of collectors. Then we have those that we just simply don't know where they are, if they were made at all, or if they were made, they're currently missing. And that's what we're going to discuss today. So just to let you know, some games such as Search for the Golden Skull, Mark of the Mole, and even the original Anteater aren't going to be discussed because those ROMs do exist even though they are in the hands of collectors and for various reasons such as perhaps copyright or the fact that they paid good money for them. They have not yet been made available to the general public. Without further ado, let's get into the games. One of the reasons we know about so many of these lost media from the Atari 2600 is because several of them were actually advertised in these catalogs. When you would buy a video game, of course, in the box, you would get the instruction manual, probably a warranty card, and depending on the company, you would actually get a catalog of upcoming and current games. When I discuss some of these games, I'm going to try to put my own opinion as to what I think those games could have been about, or maybe give a programmer or some hacker out there an idea if they decide they want to make some of these lost games. A lot of the information that was used in today's episode came from Matt Reichert. He is probably one of the biggest Atari experts out there. If you'd like to learn more about prototypes and other types of unreleased stuff, head over to his website, which is atariprotos.com. And you can look for him in the Atari Age forums. He uses the name Tempest. So give him some love and tell him Anthony sent you. The first company we're going to look at today is 20th Century Fox, or simply Fox Games. This company is still around today. However, they stopped making Atari games back in the early 80s. And one of the things they like to do were advertise upcoming games in their catalogs. Of all the games that are advertised on this page from this catalog, 4 of them have never seen the light of day. A couple of the other ones weren't released either, but their ROMs did pop up. So let's discuss those 4 games that never saw the light of day. The first one is 9 to 5. This was a film that, like all the other ones, was released by 20th Century Fox. It was a comedy starring Jane Fonda, Lily Tomlin, Dolly Parton, and Dabney Coleman. I'm not exactly sure what they had planned for this game. I would think it would be something along the lines of maybe like a Tapper clone, where you're trying to serve coffee, and maybe for the distraction you pick up a notice or something. What do you think this game could have been like? Next up, we have Six Pack. This was a Kenny Rogers film that was about a race car driver, stock car actually, who adopted 6 orphan kids and they became his pit crew. It also starred Aaron Gray and a very young Diane Lane. What you're looking at here is a mock-up box that was created by a fan. Now, as to what this game would be about, I would say it obviously was a racing game. That would make the most sense. Unnamed prototype had been found, and for many years some people suspected that it was actually the ROM for Six Pack. Later on, it was found out that it was actually the ROM for the game Heart Like a Wheel. Next up, we have the film Tough Enough. Now, this was an action film starring Dennis Quaid, which was about a family man and singer who becomes a fighter. Obviously, this probably would have been some sort of fighting game, I imagine, maybe along the lines of Real Sports Boxing or Boxing for Activision. Of all the games that had been advertised or had been planned to be released for the Atari 2600 by 20th Century Fox, the only one we really actually know what it was going to be was the Fall Guy. Now, a version of the Fall Guy was released for the... Actually, it wasn't, excuse me. It was planned to be released for the ColecoVision, and it was a pretty cool game. According to Matt Reichert and some other people, the actual Fall Guy game itself for the 2600 was actually going to be an arcade port of Squish'em, but they were just going to call it the Fall Guy. What you're looking at here is a homebrew of Squish'em that was created by Bob Montgomery and is now for sale at the Atari Age store, just so you can get an idea of what the game is like. And finally, we have The Day the Earth Stood Still. Many of you have probably seen the remake starring Keanu Reeves. This was a sci-fi film where the lines Klaatu Nikto Veratu came from. As far as these 4 games, there are no screenshots available, nor are there any actual descriptions of what the games may have been about. I discussed this with Matt Reichert, and he actually believes that 20th Century Fox planned many of these games or said, hey, we're going to be doing this game eventually, but they may not have even started on it. So more than likely, according to him, and I do believe, Matt, is that these games may have been planned but never got past the planning stages. What you're looking at here is a memo that somehow got leaked out and was found by somebody on AtariAge.com and posted in the forums. Here, this is, I guess, some sort of description of these games that Fox had planned to put out sometime. Some of the games you'll see we have discussed here, others of them were released. Some of them it's really hard to say I hadn't even heard of. So what do you think? Do you think there may be some other long-lost 20th Century Fox games we haven't discovered yet? Let me know about it in the comments section below. All right, let's move on to our next third-party game company, and that is Coleco. Now, many of you know that Coleco had their own game system, the ColecoVision, and it was rumored that they intentionally made the games that they made for other game systems of lesser quality so that people would purchase the ColecoVision. And it was also common knowledge that when they would make a game, of course, usually it being a port of an arcade game, they would release it for all 3 major game systems, the Atari 2600, ColecoVision, and Intellivision. Well, one of those titles was the game Ladybug, as you can see from this advertisement from the catalog. It was supposed to get released for the Atari 2600, the Intellivision, and the ColecoVision. However, only the Intellivision and ColecoVision were ever released. So far, the ROM itself has not been found, and there is no game footage available. Not wanting to wait for the ROM to surface, if it even exists, homebrew programmer John Champeau made his own version of Ladybug, and it is available for sale at the Atari Age store. Speaking of ColecoVision, one game that was rumored to be released for the Atari 2600 was a game that was pretty much exclusive for the ColecoVision, and that game is Tarzan. Of course, the Tarzan game was a pretty big hit on the ColecoVision, as just about everyone I know that has a ColecoVision has this game, but there were actual plans to release it for the Atari 2600. As a matter of fact, chances are good that the ROM of this is probably floating around somewhere because of some of the promotional material that we have. One of the things that was found is this prototype box. Also, a manual has been found out there, and I believe someone actually has a screenshot. So where is the ROM? Well, let's hope someday it does surface. Next, we'll move on to Parker Brothers. Much like 20th Century Fox, Parker Brothers loved to make advertisements of coming games. And much like the previous two companies, Coleco and 20th Century Fox, some of these games never saw the light of day. But also, what else is rather interesting is that the games that you see in the catalog didn't turn out to look like you thought they would. And the first Parker Brothers game we have here is Circus Charlie. Now, what you're looking at here is the arcade game that came out in 1983 by Konami. Parker Brothers announced that Atari 2600, ColecoVision, and Commodore versions of this title and prototype boxes were shown in a CES press kit. According to a Parker Brothers internal marketing release schedule, this game was scheduled for a September 1984 release. However, the game itself was not released. Actually, it was not be released for. It would only be released for the Commodore 64 computer, and that was by another company. And later, it would be released for the Famicom. According to what I've heard, the game may have been finished. Some coding was done on it. However, the ROM itself has yet to surface. So, who knows? Maybe it's out there somewhere. But this isn't the first, and it won't be the last time a Parker Brothers game has yet to be found. One of the most controversial and most discussed lost media from Parker Brothers has to be The Incredible Hulk. What you're looking at here is a mock-up box of this lost game. Alright, here's the page from that Parker Brothers catalog that discusses the game The Incredible Hulk. We have a screenshot, and we also see that early mock-up box. So here's what the description of the game says. In this video game, you're Bruce Banner, alias The Incredible Hulk. Bizarre city creatures have captured his girlfriend Betty, and you must rescue her. Dash through a maze of ever-moving streets and buildings in this unique tri-level metropolis. Climb ropes or jump down open manholes to reach different levels. Pick up gamma charges along the way and become the Incredible Hulk whenever these city creatures attack. Save Betty and find the antidote that will rid Bruce Banner of this terrible curse before it's too late. Not only was the game discussed in this catalog, it was also mentioned in a comic book. So, according to what I've heard, the game itself was actually supposed to be released in the fall of 1984. As the game on the similar page, Spider-Man, had been such a big hit, they decided that they would see if they could catch lightning in a bottle twice. Now, here's a little closer look at that screenshot from the Parker Brothers catalog. Now, some people could say, well, you know, there's a screenshot, so therefore there must be a ROM out there somewhere, right? Not exactly. According to Matt, he told me that a lot of times artists would create these so-called screenshots as a way to show the people that are looking at this what the game may look like. This more than likely is just an artist's rendition. It is probably not a true screenshot. And this also would not be the first time that Parker Brothers has done that. If you look here at this advertisement for Popeye, you see that it says that you are looking at a screenshot of the Atari 2600 version. Well, if you have the Atari 2600 version of this game, you know it looks nothing like that. Even the box is different, so these supposed screenshots don't really tell you much of anything. As a matter of fact, if anything, they do raise your hopes up and you end up being disappointed when you get the game. So, is this game out there somewhere? A lot of people say yes, some people say no. As a matter of fact, people like Matt have done a lot of research, and they can't find the programmer that may have worked on this. With all the hype that came and all the advertisements, it seems like they wouldn't have gone to that much trouble if the ROM wasn't out there, or if the game wasn't completed. So maybe someday it will be located. In the meantime, there is a pretty cool hack of the game Frankenstein's Monster, that has been turned into an Incredible Hulk theme. So if you haven't checked that game out yet, I do highly recommend it. And our last Parker Brothers game is James Bond Agent 007. Now, at the time, the latest James Bond movie was Octopussy. And according to this catalog entry, the game was going to be a reflection of that. Now, when I saw this back in 1983, I was excited. This looked really cool, as you would be battling it out with enemy spies on a train. I hadn't seen the movie yet, but this did really look exciting. Here's a shot that was taken by somebody that saw a demonstration of this game at a game show. So it looks pretty exciting, and it looks like definitely a game I would like to get. However, that's not the James Bond game that we would get. What we got is this poor man's version of Moon Patrol, and I do mean a poor man's version, as half the stuff that you shoot at you can't even hit, but they can hit you. So how did it go from being that cool Octopussy, train fighting game to this? I'm not exactly sure, and nobody else is either. There's been speculation that maybe the train game didn't do well in testing, although I can't really see this doing much better, especially since we have a Moon Patrol. Whatever. Anyway, let's hope someday a playable build of the original 007 does surface so that we can try to forget this particular game ever existed. And our final lost media for today comes from the company Data Age. Data Age is most well known for their game Journey Escape, which I have discussed many times, and many people have hacked that game to make it for their favorite band. Quick hint, I'm actually working on a big project right now with somebody I've worked with before, and it is involving Journey Escape. So I will talk more about that later on. As Journey Escape had not been the big success that they thought it would be, as they had spent quite a bit of money on the licensing, and they didn't make that money back, Data Age went out of business. They had planned these 4 games that you see right here before they had gone under. However, out of the 4 games here, only Secret Agent has been found. The ROMs for the other 3 games, Mr. Bill's Neighborhood, Smokey the Bear, and Mr. T, have not yet been found. As far as these games go, I've talked to other people, and they don't really know if the games had actually been started. If they'd been planned out, who knows? But I feel that if the ROM for Secret Agent was found, hopefully the other 3 will be somewhere around. Specifically, Mr. Bill's Neighborhood, as I love those skits on Saturday Night Live, and I'd love to see what that game would have been like. So, in our next episode, we will have more lost media for the Atari 2600. Well, that brings this episode to a close. I really hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to give me a great big thumbs up if you liked it. If you didn't like it, give me a thumbs down. Either or is fine. Just let me know. Also, subscribe if you haven't already. Don't forget to share. And don't forget to click that little bell icon down there so you'll be notified when I upload new episodes. Well, until next time, I'm Anthony Gamer. I wish you all a great week. Until next time, be strong, be safe, be happy, be healthy, and above all, take care of each other, be kind to each other, and stop hate of all kinds. See you soon. Bye.